This is Bad Movies We Love, part of the Shice Podcast Network.
If you're listening to this, you are the resistance.
Hello, Bad Movie Lovers, and welcome back to Bad Movies We Love. We are closing out round one of NicVember here on the show. I am your host, Nick Scheist.
The master of the stupid stuff!
If you're a fan of the stupid stuff, you have come to the right place. So before we continue, just do me a favor, make sure you follow and subscribe to the show so that way you don't miss an episode. And if you have the time, please leave a rating and a review, especially if you've ever heard me mention the name of the movie and you said, wait a second, this movie doesn't suck, this movie's awesome. That is exactly what we're going for, and believe it or not, your reviews are actually one of the best ways for other weirdos like us to find the show. And if you want to become a card-carrying member of the Resistance, for just $5 a month, you can sign up for the Resistance members-only tier at badmovieswelove.captivate.fm/support. Yes, I know that's a mouthful. I'm probably going to switch over to Patreon to start 2026, but for now, the link is up in the show notes, so you don't have to worry about memorizing any of that. But for your $5, you'll get access to the Discord channel. You will get automatic entry into all of our giveaways. I just did a $50 giveaway for a physical media label for October. You will get the member-exclusive shows by Monsai Ficon and Bad Movie Futures, and first-time subscribers will get an automatic welcome pack with stickers and a handwritten thank you card. So your $5 gets you pretty good value. It helps support an independent podcast like this, and then in turn, you're also helping support the artists who I license music from for the show. That way you can feel even better about spending the $5 to support the show. I'm probably going to close down the phone lines because nobody uses it, but if you want to get in contact with me, you can email me at badmovieswelove@thesheist.com, or you can share some thoughts with me anonymously by taking the listener survey, and the link for that is up in the show notes. It is a little sad to say goodbye to NicVember, but it's only part one, and we're going to say goodbye in style because I was joined once again by Topher Graham, but this time he brought his partner Ariel Hansen, so we've got both halves of Bad Cookie Pictures here to talk about Nick Cage in Brian Taylor's very dark comedy from 2017, Mom and Dad.
This one was just like a torpedo.
He himself said this was his favorite movie he had done in 10 years.
He might just be there for the paycheck, but he's still, like, actually creating something entertaining.
In this case, like, he wanted to be operatic and he wanted to be very intense, and he's like, I'll be the one who decides what the top is.
Brian Taylor, like the writer and director of this film, was the perfect collaborator for that.
Oh, I was entertained, so I think it's good.
There's mysteries to be unlocked.
I mean, one of these days, I'm going to trip over one of Josh's toys and take a nosedive straight to the emergency room.
What are you saying?
I'm saying that maybe we need to have boundaries. I'm saying that maybe there needs to be a fucking grown-up zone and a fucking kid zone.
You think I want to be the one to piss all over your family room?
Do you think I want to be the one who has to build a fucking family room?
Oh, should we hide him? I think we
Don't gotta hide nothing. Well, I have the pleasure today of being joined by, once again, Topher Graham. This time, you brought a guest with you. Ariel Hansen's here.
It did.
Hello. I had a sneeze that did not come.
So, both halves are 2/3 of Bad Cookie Pictures?
I would say,
On paper, both halves.
yeah.
Okay.
We have a constant collaborator who's like the unofficial third.
Gotcha. So, Topher and I talked at length a little bit already about the company, about how you got started, but didn't get a chance to talk to you yet. You're all over the Bad Cookie Pictures productions. So how did you just get started in acting and in filmmaking, and where did you come into it?
Yeah, so I come from the acting world. I started doing theater as a kid, and I like wrote plays in high school that I then actually I directed one of them, and another couple won like a playwright competition, or they were runners up. I won't say they won because they were runner ups, but they also got to be produced. So doing that, I moved to Vancouver to go to acting school. And so I did my acting program. And then after I did that, so how I met Topher is kind of very roundabout way. So I was looking for a job, and I interviewed and auditioned to work at our local haunted attraction, Fright Nights. And my interviewer was a Gigi Salguerrero, who she's a horror director based out of Vancouver, but she also does a lot of stuff in Mexico as well. And her production company, Luchagor, were doing Evil Dead in 60 seconds in the new year for a local competition. And she asked me to audition for Cheryl because she knew I could do crazy possessed from the interview for Fright Nights, which I also did get a job there. So I worked at that haunt. And then she was friends with Topher. And so I met Topher at her birthday party. And then we became friends.
Yep.
Yeah. I was writing a script because I was like, well, no one's going to just give me a role, so I might as well make roles for myself. And I was like trying to get someone else to direct it, but then Topher's had the idea of, why don't you try directing it? And I was like, okay. And that's how Ready to Burst happened. And I caught the bug. And
hit the ground running.
Yep. So then the next year we did The Man in the Rabbit Mask and just kept going. We did our double feature of shorts, The Devil and I and Nepenthes. And then we just kept making things. And yeah.
It's all uphill from here.
Yeah.
Well, when Topher and I had chatted about sort of even before I asked him to come on and talk to me in general for the filmmaker featurette, him and I were talking a little bit about what movies were going to come up in NicVember and what options might be available, and it was Topher that pitched Mom and Dad. I had it on my list, but nobody else volunteered. And so I'm curious, Ariel, is this a movie that you actually like, or did he just drag you into this conversation?
It's half and half. I did enjoy watching it when I saw it. So it's not a case of, oh, I have to talk about that movie. I did actually have a fun time when I watched it. So, but then Topher was just like, hey, come on with me. And I was like, okay.
Look, Mom and Dad is kind of perfect for us because it's a little bit horror. It's a little bit camp. It's got all of the stuff that I love about Nick Cage movies, mainly Nick Cage just unleashed and put in a world where that kind of makes sense. And for me, there's a couple of movies that are obvious ones, stuff like Vampire's Kiss or Mandy, stuff that would be easy, but Mom and Dad is like kind of that perfect blend of unassuming but also like incredible. I don't know, it's got a lot of energy, and I just wanted to throw my hat in.
I mean, my personal favorite Nick Cage movie is Wild at Heart.
Fair.
So, but This one, it's a fun one. And I feel like when it came out, it was kind of a part of a subgenre, but we can get into that later based on what your questions are.
Plus, you already had somebody for Wicker Man, so
True. Yes, that was an episode that I had recorded so far in advance that I already knew that was going to be part of the lineup regardless. And then I was like, well, I need to fill out the rest of the month with movies. And I know that there's a couple that I can squeeze in here and there. And Ghost Rider was one that was kind of pre-planned. So I wanted to open it up for, some of the other stuff. And like, I don't even know that I have a favorite Nick Cage movie because all of them are so fun in a lot of different ways. The one I've probably seen the most is maybe Face Off or Con Air, but I don't know that I would say that either of those are necessarily my favorite. So I'll be curious once I finish doing this month and then do the second Nick Cage month next year, if I'm going to have like a more clear cut favorite than I do right now, because he's got really fantastic Oscar winning stuff, Oscar level stuff, where he's doing Adaptation, Leaving Las Vegas, Raising Arizona. And then he's got really like campy, low budget garbage like Jiu-Jitsu, which is insane. And I don't even know why he's really in that movie, but he's got those both sides of the spectrum covered pretty well. So I think no matter what you sort of want out of your movie, Nick Cage is going to have something for you as the audience.
I feel like you truly could, in Community when they have the Nicolas Cage course, I truly feel like you could have a full breakdown of Nicolas Cage's career in an academic sense, and you you still would find new things every time. Like the way he approaches projects differently on each film, or how people integrate his style, or even the behind the scenes stories you hear about him, like from Kevin Smith and the Superman movie, or Seth Rogen told a story about how Nicolas Cage wanted to come pitch, and he did it in an entirely Jamaican accent that was
oh my goodness.
And there's mysteries to be unlocked, I would say.
Well, I mean, you're both like actors. I mean, to some degree, Ariel, you're more of an actor than Dover. So I wanted to ask you, like, when you look at sort of like what Nick Cage is doing, like for yourself as a performer, with the kind of, I want to say, like limitless approach that he takes to his roles, like, is there something that you like learn from watching his, like the freedom that he sort of wields when he goes into a lot of this stuff?
I mean, I'd say, because like when I was younger, I used to be like, oh, if that counts as acting, anyone can. As I've gotten older, I appreciate it a lot more. And I think it's you never see him phoning it in. Like, even if the performance, people consider it bad, he's still giving it like 100% of his energy. Like, it doesn't seem like he might just be there for the paycheck, but he's still like actually creating something entertaining instead of just sort of saying the lines and having to have someone have the lines pasted all around the room and him being half drunk and just stumbling like you hear of some actors doing when they got later in their career.
He genuinely comes at it like an art form. As an artist, he comes in, he does it his way, and he crafts it in the way that he imagines it, which a lot of actors have to come in and do what the director wants.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like he just refuses to do that.
Yeah, and from what I have heard, he's also like at least Longlegs, he was like very much he created a lot of his character. Like, he had a lot of input on the special effects, makeup that he wore, and like he kind of just brought his ideas, and then they worked with that for the film.
Well, what I think I find most interesting about his style is that, like you said, he's never really phoning it in, but in sort of going from the heights of like Hollywood stardom, where at one point he's the highest paid actor in the business, then to making a bunch of stuff that's kind of like either low budget or sort of low brow, and he's doing stuff that's straight to video at some point. And in those instances, he's often the attraction with those kind of films. And he's working with sometimes people who have not made a lot of films. And I think what it did was it gave him the opportunity to be a lot more sort of involved in like the film making process. And I know that when he did Pig, he was very heavily involved in a lot of like the overall decisions of the film and helping the director like make his first feature in that sense. And so it's kind of like given him a sense of creative freedom that he maybe sort of always wanted and never really had before. And then in a movie like this, he really gets to sort of cut loose. And, you know, I was watching a bunch of the interviews with this, and like, I don't know about you two, but I think a lot of people came to appreciate Nick Cage sort of as like the campy maniac, right? Like it was after all of his Hollywood success where people really came to him as this sort of like hero of B-movie cinema, right? And so in those moments, you have a guy who is doing all this crazy stuff. He became very memeable on the internet. I mean, like, look at the shirt you're wearing. It's like all that
Very
stuff.
viral.
So like he was just such a interesting actor to like clip short moments of and put that out there. And I think so it became like very easily digestible for internet culture to make him that guy. Even though when he sort of looks back on that, he's like, I never really like viewed myself as that guy. It was just sort of what happened. And then to hear him talk about the decisions that he makes and why he makes them, and in specifically talking about this movie, they asked him like a question about being over the top. And his answer was basically, if you know what you're doing and you know where you're going, you can design whatever you want the top to be. So in this case, like he wanted to be operatic and he wanted to be very intense. And he's like, I'll be the one who decides what the top is. And so I feel like that's a very like healthy way to look at approaching like delivering yourself to an art form, because you're both artists. If you set the ceiling and this is sort of the limitations of our capabilities with like what we want to do artistically, then like you're never going to exceed that.
And I feel Brian Taylor, like the writer and director of this film, was the perfect collaborator for that. Like obviously they had worked before, and Ghost Rider, but obviously under a much heavier Marvel or studio presence. And this film, without all of that baggage, allowed them both to really heighten, you know, where they were going, where the energy was, and where these characters could really play. And I really appreciate like the simplicity of the concept here and how they really gave that away immediately in the trailers as soon as they can, just so that the audience is like, okay, I am ready to to get there with you. I'm ready to like come on this ride. I understand we're not, you know, winning any Oscars or going going through a giant emotional process, which debatable, but really they put it out in a way where just trust us, and you're gonna enjoy it.
I mean, it's the kind of movie where I feel like it's like the right time for that kind of movie. Like you said, like this movie was directed and written by Brian Taylor, who had worked with Cage on Spirit of Vengeance, where even with Spirit of Vengeance, they approached sort of the first Ghost Rider movie and then wanted to put it more in the hands of Nick Cage and let him sort of like be himself in it. And in doing so, what Taylor said of Cage was that directing Nick is like directing the weather. He's like Hurricane Jose. You can't change it. You can only wear the right clothing and hope that you don't get destroyed. So even he is like, the reason that he approaches Nick is because he wants to just have that sort of energy on set. And in speaking to all of the co-stars, like they're all like super excited to work with him and like be part of his process. And like one of the interviews, I think it was Variety, and Cage is talking about not even looking at what he does as acting anymore. He sort of looks at himself as a medium for where the script is. And he's like, my job is to sort of like be a prism to focus all of the emotion and all of the feelings and everything that's coming through, so that when we're on set, it's like we're making it real in that way. So I thought it was like, I think it's actually a very healthy approach to acting. And even though he's like very eccentric and kind of like the epitome of like an eccentric actor in that way, I feel like it is sort of like a healthy artistic approach to want to like play in the sandbox that way.
And it allows us like new film experiences that, you know, a lot of people don't even try to approach. I've never seen anything like Mom and Dad beforehand, you know. Even Crank was a real experience that was so groundbreaking when it came out, but like this one was just just like a torpedo, like.
That's an interesting way to put it. But Ariel, like I know you were sort of like some column A, some column B on this. When you step back and look at it, just forget the sort of like quality aspect of it. When you look at the identity,
I was entertained, so I think it's good. my rule is like, as long as I'm entertained, I'm happy. I was entertained. The worst thing a movie can be is boring. That's what makes a bad movie.
No, I agree. And I don't really think this is a bad movie, but it's a good time for us to go to the tail of the tape, and we'll look at some of the scores here, because it does have to qualify for this show some way. And it has an IMDb score of 5.6, which isn't horrible. It has a Metascore of 59, but the Rotten Tomatoes critic score is 74%, which is like shocking to me. And this is not the kind of movie that I figured critics would like.
I do have a theory of how that could have happened. It could have been a bit of like bias of like, did it go to theaters? Because if it didn't.
It had a small theatrical release after it debuted at Fantasia or something like that.
Yeah. It was quick. It was like in and out. So I do remember.
I feel like probably a lot of the critics who did review it are people who like this kind of movie, and it was more likely to have the people who would like it review it, versus because it wasn't as wide of a release, you don't have like the Times columnist movie reviewer of Victoria doing a review on it who only likes Oscar movies.
I mean, at this point, Nicolas Cage was already well into the public eye. This was after Wicker Man. This was, you know, we already knew.
I think his Oscar win got him into the public eye.
Well, yeah. When we're talking about Nicolas Cage as like a meme actor, which is not a fair descriptor, but in terms of how the internet was perceiving him at the time, he was already at that height of, I think this was when the like clips started coming out from Wicker Man.
That happened way before this, because I remember that's like early YouTube, and so that would have been like probably 2009.
Yeah,
that the compilations of Wicker Man clips were out, and this was what, like 2015 or 20?
I think
this one's 2017.
I thought it was 2017. Yeah. So it's
much later.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But he himself said this was his favorite movie he had done in 10 years, and when you look back to 2013, like he had a run where it was Rage, Outcast, Left Behind, Dying of the Light, The Runner, Pay the Ghost, The Trust, Dog Eat Dog, and then Snowden. Finally, it was like he's back in sort of like a high profile film. And then after that, he did Men of Courage, Army of One, Arsenal, Vengeance, Inconceivable, and then Mom and Dad. So it was still sort of in a period of his career where he was taking a lot of those sort of smaller budget type of films. And the Rotten Tomato audience score is 40%. So most of the people that saw this didn't really like it. The Letterboxd is a 2.8. So in line with IMDb. Google score too. Usually I can rely on the Google score to thumbs up every single movie that I'm going to talk about on this show. This one was 55%. So it gives us a total for this show of 56.6. So it's like right under the threshold of for where I would say is probably we're entering into like, oh, this isn't even like a bad movie. And like I said, I don't think this movie actually is a bad movie, but we had to draw the line somewhere. And I'm glad that we cut it off at a point where we could actually get a chance to talk about it, because it's doing a lot of like really sort of interesting things. And listening to them describe it as punk rock was not something that I thought of initially. But when you look at it like punk rockers that sort of like had to retire and move to the suburbs and like they can't rock out anymore, then I'm like, okay, now this like makes a lot more sense. So I'm going to set the table here for the audience. It's very brief because surprisingly there's not a lot of backstory on this. It was a quick shoot, but this was a co-UK-US production. And it brought Cage and Selma Blair together. And Cage signed on in early 2016, and Selma Blair signed on the following summer. And then they started filming in Louisville in July of 16. It makes its debut at Midnight Madness at TIFF before hitting theaters January 2018. It only grossed $286,000 against a $4 million budget, so widely considered a failure, but mostly well regarded by critics. And that's kind of a departure for this show. But it did give us Cage's maybe most unhinged dad performance to date. And it was new territory for him because he doesn't play a dad all that often. And when he had in the past, it was stuff I think like Family Man. I think maybe in The Weatherman, he was also a dad. I mean, kind of in Raising Arizona, but like not really. So it's sort of uncharted territory for him. And I think even in Joe, he's like a father figure, but not an actual, he's not that character's dad. So to see him not just like, okay, now you're sort of shifted fully to suburbia, but then we're going to unravel that all within the confines of the movie, I think is a very interesting choice.
And I wonder if he drew on his own experiences for this, because it's quite cynical.
Oh, yes, very much so. And even Brian Taylor as the director is like, yeah, I have kids. And, you know, I think every parent can relate to some elements of this. And they sort of asked Nick Cage that and Selma Blair when they're doing some of the press junket stuff. And Selma was like, the way that she answered the question was pretty funny, because you could tell that she's like trying to guard her answer about like, yes, I feel this way, but also no, I don't want to like kill my child. But like this notion that you have to leave behind, or you don't have to, but you maybe circumstantially leave behind the person you were in order to just be a parent at that point. And they have that conversation in this film where it's a post destruction of the pool table down in the basement. They have like a very real adult conversation. And even the music that's like playing over that is very specifically chosen in a sort of chaotic moment to frame this as two people who had lives, who had hopes and dreams and all this stuff. And what ultimately became of them was not the vision that they had for themselves. And when he first breaks down saying, he's like, no, I used to be Brent. And like the kid that I was would be ashamed of this like fat idiot that I am now. And he's like, do you know what I mean? And Selma Blair's character has to confess to him that like, of course I know what you mean. And she just like handles it very gracefully and much different, but like sowing the seeds of this understanding of having to sacrifice for your children in a way that, you know, maybe a little bit unhealthy, and sort of, I think it grapples with the identity of maintaining your individuality at a point in your life where sort of that's beginning to erode, like whether that be through just marriage, whether it be through moving to suburbia, whether it be having kids. Like he says, I know we're doing everything right and this is the way that it's supposed to be, but I still can't like help but feel like I hate this. And so it's just a very interesting through line. And I think that's what probably that's the thing that like parents are going to relate to. And the idea that like, not I'm going to kill my kids, but that like I am allowed to have frustrations with my life at this juncture in my life, even though we are on paper doing everything that we're supposed to be doing.
It's kind of like a rejection of that whole mentality, but also just kind of a real investigation of it. And
Yeah.
it's funny to me because upon rewatching this, Brent, you kind of get the idea that like even if this wasn't going on, he might still kill his kids. Like he did feel like ready to go.
He was giving Family Annihilator vibes.
Yeah, he had the gun already.
He just had to have some bad investments go down and then clean the table.
Like the path was laid. But I growing up now, being 36, and I don't have a family or kids or anything like this. But we're in that space now where people are taking on mortgages, and a lot of my friends do have kids, and you can see like they're giving up certain aspects of their youth to just to build a more secure and stronger life, and they have to deal with that on an emotional level, and there's healthy ways to do it, and there's you know attacking the pool table with a sledgehammer.
Well, I love that scene because it's set 3 weeks before the events of the film. And I think it's a pivotal scene in the movie because it speaks to what you were just saying, and that like he kind of has that vibe of like he's on the verge already. He almost didn't even need this incident to happen. It was like, oh, everyone's killing their kids. Like, I'm in on it. I don't need the signal. But he goes down there like he's having a midlife crisis or whatever, right? And he's building the pool table, and then he can't get it level, and it's like driving him mad. And it's that little thing of like, oh, the faucet dripping in the sink and you can't stop it, or like the door squeaking. It's like there was always going to be some little tiny thing that was going to set him off. And in this case, it just happened to be the pool table. But even the whole idea that he felt like he had to create a family room in the basement just because there was no like adults only zones in the house. It was like, I feel like all this stuff in the character writing actually speaks to some pretty true things. And maybe that's why we see these kinds of decisions being made in terms of like, oh, we're going to have the game room, or we're going to have the man cave. And she kind of teases him about having a midlife crisis and building the man cave in the basement. And the fact that he even has to defend himself in that moment and say that like, these are the reasons why I'm trying to do this. I feel like the writing and the intention behind the writing is really smart, and it's really dialed into what the director was like maybe feeling and what he wanted to communicate. And then the movie itself is like, it's very chaotic, and it doesn't spend most of its time really grappling with that subject matter. It uses that as a launching pad to get into more of like a thriller horror territory. And when I was initially sort of pulling clips for the month, and I was watching the trailer, like some of the stuff in the comments is like, how is this a comedy? And it's like, well, I mean, you just kind of have to watch it and then you'll figure that part out.
I what I love that it does is it gives a kind of safe outlet to express those feelings. If this is something you're grappling with, if you're in a family scenario, and maybe you're just feeling a little encroached upon, like you don't have your own space. This comes out and says to you, yeah, that's fair. That's totally true. And for an hour and 30 minutes, you can watch this guy kill his kids.
It's a very sort of like healthy and unhealthy venting of this frustration. And the movie sort of ends in the middle of him kind of screaming, right? And he's like, of course we love you and blah, blah, blah. But sometimes we just want to, and then, the movie ends, but it ends with the exclamation of that rage. And that even though like we got beat, we're tied up, we can acknowledge that we love our kids. Like sometimes we still just want to like kill you little bastards. And so I think a lot of the flashbacks are used in a very interesting way to add additional context to like what's happening. Because even if you look back to when the kid like puts like a dead bird or something in his car, and he's sitting down on the curb with him talking about this is sort of what I went through with my dad and getting that car, and at the very end of that he's like, if you do touch the car again though, I'm gonna fucking kill you. And he doesn't really say it like he's joking there. And so like he's attached a lot of his identity to this car. And so like I feel like the psychological sort of character study at play is very, very interesting. And you could have gone a much different direction than this, like toned down a lot of like the violence and the action and the big crowd scene, and really like focus more in on sort of like the internal family dynamic. You get a much different movie that way, and it's a lot less fun. But I think the framework for having that conversation is there, and it seems like it's a good place to play because Selma gets to do it in a much more subtle way. She gets to see it with the character of her sister, like sort of having that sort of moment in the hospital where she has to put herself in between there, and she's still not like understanding it as it's happening. She's the one listening to the radio on the way home saying like, don't go to your kids. And then as soon as she finds him like unconscious on the floor in the kitchen, they're in the basement, and then it's a full sprint basically towards the end of the film there.
Yeah, it's an incredibly interesting case study, just because it's done it in a way that we've never seen before. And it just kind of like plays with that rage in a way that doesn't despair it or
Well, what's also nice, or what makes it different as well, is as opposed to like, say, the rage virus in 28 Days Later or something, like it's not like they're just 100% killing machines. They can still think, talk. They still like they're still people. It's just they've got an urge that they can't suppress.
Yeah. But it's not, patricide is when you kill your parents, or is that when your parents kill you? I don't even know.
Infanticide is killing your child.
Infanticide. Okay. So it's the infanticide virus. And there's clearly something going on where it's coming in through either like the radio or the television signal. So it's like the world building around what's causing it. Mm-hmm. Sort of, you don't really know if it's happening in the whole world, and you don't know if it's like isolated in this one town. The movie it reminded me most of, besides 28 Days Later, was probably Pontypool, in that there's like, it's just this thing that's happening and no one can really explain it or understand it. And it's happening like over the airwaves and just through communication. But to do this in a very small town and have it be sort of like Everywhereville America, I think speaks to sort of like the undertones of like the boringness of suburbia and sort of like what that does to your psyche if you're not that kind of a person. I know I asked you both on the preparation to do haikus because that's what we do for the show. We do synopsis haikus. Did you? No, I see it. I see a notebook.
And I think it's beautiful. And spoiler alert, okay?
Okay.
So my synopsis haiku: parents kill their kids around the entire world, but so will grandpa.
Yeah, that's a nice twist because I feel like the movie does a really good job of like burying the notion that this is all one day and that yes, we had dinner plans with your folks tonight. And so I love when that moment comes around, he just puts the saw down on the table. It's like, oh shit. And they're not even thinking about our parents are wanting to kill us in this situation. And so it's a nice little moment to sort of like invert the polarity of the film. And it becomes like much more comical in that moment when grandma and grandpa show up to kill their kids versus just parents like hunting their children and being like, hey, maybe this isn't like such a funny topic here. But I love that you do it with Lance Henriksen too.
I'm trying to remember, were like the adopted kids safe? Because their parents weren't biologically related to them?
Yes.
That's a good question. That's for mom and dad too, when like this virus has spread across the whole world for months and then it's just, hey, you know, we're adopted, so it's fine.
Well, we know that the mom was horrified by her sister killing her niece.
Yeah.
And we know of the maid killing her son, and you know, he was pissed off about the blood on the ground, and so like we know that it's like a biological, and they talk about savagery when they say that like pigs will eat their young, or I think it's hamsters they took the signal for. And so it was just it feels like it's kind of something is triggered, and they don't say what explicitly. It could be, you know, they allude to Russians and psychological warfare, but it's never explicitly said. But they talk about like just something natural in the brain overtaking and turning you into something that would kill your kids just on instinct, right?
Yeah, I like that it's not explicitly explained. I like that you bring in someone like Dr. Oz, who is a quack, and you put him in a position to really like speak for everybody as like a medical expert. And he starts talking about pigs killing their babies. And it's like, excuse me, like this is not the explanation we need here. You get some other guy on the news, you know, talking about inverting a signal to your brain that tells you to protect your kids. So there's all this like sort of mumbo jumbo in the air of like what's really happening. But as the writer and the director of the film, he's already laid the groundwork for like, we know why it's happening. It's just like a hyper extreme example of this particular feeling that's already there. It doesn't necessarily need some like large government conspiracy to convey it or anything like that. So I felt like it was a very sort of like clever way to also make fun of like how the news media approaches these types of situations. Everyone's reaching out to some like, you know, expert, quote unquote, to come in and make sense of this. But at the end of the day, it doesn't have anything to do with really Russians sending brain signals. You know, who knows?
And it's fun as an audience member because you're locked in the whole time trying to solve the secret. You're like, maybe if I watch it again, I can find the little point where they give it all away, and they never do. It's very explicit that they're not going to tell you what's going on.
And I mean, that makes it better in the horror side of things, because as soon as you start to like explain it and give it all this backstory and lore of this is exactly why it's happening, that just destroys the fear from it. It's the unknown that makes it scary. It's like you take so many characters, you see the monster too much, not scary anymore. You get the monster's whole backstory and explanation, not scary anymore. Like if the more you know, the less scary something is. So having it be mysterious just keeps that tension up.
And it keeps you on your toes because the movie never lets up its energy. It doesn't stop for a moment to give you pause to really think about what you're seeing. It just kind of drags you along through it.
No, that's a good point. And the notion that there isn't an explanation is more frightening than there being an explanation, because one of the interviewers asked them at one of the press junket things was like, what happens when the script ends? Like, does this just keep going forever? And so they sort of interpreted it that way, as that, yeah, this is all over the globe and like this is just going to continue. And so they asked the kid actors, and the kid who plays the son was like, yeah, I guess we just kill you guys in that situation, because like what else are we going to do? But there's like sort of an acknowledgement that there isn't any end in sight, and sort of that unexplainable pivot to just total chaos is what makes the movie a successful horror film. And then what makes it like a good satire and dark comedy is that it's deriving its horror from sort of like a very instinctual, like real and well articulated place. Although, like, yes, this is a crazy example of it, but I have my haiku as well, so I didn't leave you out there all alone. Okay. So, bored in the suburbs, dad's gone mad, mom's on the hunt, killings all the rage.
Nice. Love it.
I wanted to incorporate something like mommy's a zombie, but I was like, no, I can't. There's not enough syllables for me to make this work. So I had to settle for dad's gone mad. So it is what it is.
I appreciate that you really took to the emotional underline of the story.
I tried, you know. Well, the first time I had seen it, I couldn't really tell if I liked it or not. I watched it because it was Nick Cage. It kind of threw me for a loop because of what the movie is. And then I hadn't watched it in, I don't know, a handful of years. So going back and watching it again and sort of knowing that I was going to approach it a little bit differently, and I wanted to talk more about the subtext and really like get into the movie itself. And like, I'm not here to punch down on this movie. That's not what we do at this show. This is where we talk about stuff that we actually love and why we love it. So I really wanted to take a look at this from like the complete opposite end of the spectrum. And so I felt like there's so much richness in the environment and the world building. Like even the simple thing of her coffee cup, where her coffee cup says totes a morning person, is such like suburban mom bullshit. And like she goes to the yoga class with the other mom and they're all trying to sleep with the yoga instructor. It's like, it's very specifically aimed at like that sort of class of people, I would say. So I think it's well articulated in that Brian Taylor is probably coming from like this similar thing. So he sees this a lot in his regular life, but like in all the places that we live, there is like these neighborhoods that are sort of like that. And Selma Blair being like so disinterested in being there in the morning while drinking from her cup, that's like trying to remind her that like she loves being a mom. You don't even need any dialogue in that moment. It's just like her acting in this little like set piece, and it does a lot of the work for you. So like the more I looked at that stuff, the more I'm like, wow, this is actually like a pretty, I see why Nick Cage was like, I like the script and I want to get in on this.
It feels like an inside joke.
Yeah.
For like our parents' generation.
Fair. Yeah. Okay. Well, no, go for it.
There's a lot of similarities in movies that came out around that time, say like Fight Club and Matrix, and people who just are unsatisfied in their normal working repetitive lives. And I don't truly experience that in the way, because my life is very varied and separate from that. But it is interesting for Brian Taylor here to take that feeling, and instead of and just really run with, oh, we'll just kill our kids. we'll just face the problem head on. In an imaginary way.
Yes, in a very healthy and imaginary only way. One of the things that we do here on the show is I'm going to ask you both. Ariel, I'll start with you.
Mm-hmm.
If you had to, I mean, you were already sort of like not the big lover of this film, but you enjoyed yourself. So why do you think that people consider this to be a bad movie?
I think a lot of people just don't appreciate like a big performance anymore. Like so much of like acting style is like quiet mumblecore that like you can barely hear what they're saying, and they're just like kind of not really doing that much. And like the like naturalism has like gone to such an extreme that like people are like, oh well, if I can't believe it, then it's bad. Whereas like if like, does it make you feel something? Are you having fun? Like those are the kinds of things that can make a great performance. It doesn't have to just be this most grounded real like of course real people don't act like this because real people aren't all of a sudden going to kill their kids except for like very rare occasions. So I think like that's part of it is like people just don't have an appreciation for the style of performance Nick's given. And I think honestly, there's probably a lot of people that just are turned off by the thought of parents killing their kids. Like, there's probably a lot of people who are like, I'm not even going to watch that. That just sounds like trash, like exploitation, blah, blah, blah. So there's probably a lot of people that like just write it off without even seeing it too.
No, that's a good point. I mean, that comment that I read on the trailer for it that said like, how is this a comedy? Like, so obviously people don't want to entertain this idea, but I'm looking at it here. I even see someone said, I'm taking my kids to see this just to send them a message. So this person understands what the idea of this movie is. But Topher, do you have like an idea for why people just think this is a bad movie?
I do. Like, I do think a lot of people come at it and maybe they don't like the unsubtle concept and they don't like stuff being put to their face. Like Ariel said, a lot of people are just turned off by gore. And also the abrupt ending really, it doesn't answer questions at all. It just kind of like, well, this is where we're at and this is where we're going to leave you. And you can finish the rest of the movie yourself. We're done here. We did it. And I appreciate that that it doesn't do a full a learning journey for any of the characters. Really, we
Full
don't
arc.
we don't have that full arc in the end where they learn from their mistakes or leave the kids so that they don't feel these urges, or the kids
Kill them.
kill them and finish off and feel that safety. We never get that safety of a traditional story. But that's kind of what makes it great, is that it's doing something entirely different than you've ever seen before. It is there to be an experience and not a lesson.
Yes, I think that's a good distinction to be made here. And both the idea that people are sort of, averse to seeing this kind of content in general, number one. And number two, seeing it in a way that doesn't really explain it, I think makes it even more challenging for sort of audiences in general. And one thing, like, I strongly dislike Unsolved Mysteries, the show, because why am I watching an entire like docuseries about things that aren't solved? But then in the context of a movie, I don't have that issue. Like, I don't need this spelled out for me in that way, because this movie isn't like trying to do that. And so I think there's a difference between something that's like a maybe true story base where, a lot of true crime stuff is about figuring out like why the thing happened and why the person did what they did. And that's a lot of the discovery aspect of those things. But in this case, it's about the performances. It's about the energy and about the vibe of the movie. And, it seems maybe like a little bit of a cop out to say it's like a vibes movie, but at the end of the day, like, it's a horror thriller that also is a very, very dark black comedy.
And I think the unsafety aspect of it, the reason you as an audience member don't feel safe, which speaks to the horror of it and what makes it a horror movie. Because you don't know where it's going to go, and in real life, when things happen that are outside of your control or knowledge, you also you're looking for answers in every which way. You're looking for the easy answers. You're looking to Dr. Oz to tell you, oh, don't wear a mask because you're going to get natural immunity, or things of this nature, where it's not the right answer, but it's an answer. And this movie, pre-pandemic, because it's 2017, really really makes you feel that unsafety of not knowing, and plays with that in your own emotions. And that, I love that, because that's kind of like The Strangers. Which is an odd comparison to make, but why do they do it? Because you were home.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Let's take a look at the trailer, actually, because then we will see how the movie was marketed. And I don't think they pull their punches really at all with this. That I think is the correct one. Yes. Okay. Sure, the volume is not going to deafen us too much.
This episode of Bad Movies We Love is brought to you by the all-new Sawzall Mini, the compact cordless cutter that's ready whenever irritation strikes. Looking for big cutting power in a small grab-and-go package? Well, the Sawzall Mini packs the same trusted high-torque bite as the full-size model, now engineered into a lightweight hand-mounted frame that fits neatly in drawers, tool belts, and glove boxes. Need to dismantle a pool table but you don't have your sledgehammer handy? Maybe your annoying kids have locked themselves in their rooms and you need to get in there and teach them a lesson? The Sawzall Mini delivers clean cuts, steady vibration control, and enough battery life to power you through the latest subliminal infanticide virus. Smart, fast, reliable, unlike your pesky kids. When you need it done right, and you need it done right now, grab the tool that truly saws all. The Sawzall Mini. Full power, half the size, all business. Available now wherever tools and hardware are sold. And now, back to the show.
You hear that okay?
Hey, can I go to a movie with Riley tonight?
With Riley?
Your grandparents are coming for dinner tonight, remember? Awesome. Grandpa telling his disgusting Vietnam stories.
Take my advice, don't ever have kids.
Everything just revolves around you, doesn't it?
Yeah, whatever.
Even like the sort of B-roll shots of the neighborhood, I think, are very like specific and cultivating the tone. But I do love that scene right there.
I didn't realize they gave away the grandparents, right?
It's like you're waiting for a buffet.
What's going on? Is that McKenna's mom?
Multiple reports are now coming in of parents murdering their own children.
Listen to
Definitely
me.
pivoted to intensity pretty quick.
Mom and Dad come home.
They had to give it away right away.
Put your right foot in, you take your right foot out, you do the hokey and you...
Mom? Yes. It's Mommy. Mommy's here. Are you two all right? We're not coming out, okay? You have to leave.
You're going to open this door! This is a really great idea, honey.
I forgot.
It's like they're healing their relationship by trying to kill their kids together.
It's a date movie. It's
Yeah.
It's the inverse of the having a kid to save the relationship.
Yeah.
It's taking out the kid to save the relationship.
Cage tells a really funny story about the pool table scene and what he brought to that, where he's singing the Hokey Pokey. And he talks about being like in kindergarten or maybe first grade, and they used to do that like as a group. And he was saying that like it's part of the sort of like societal structure to separate the coordinated kids from the uncoordinated kids. And he's like, I had a bunch of my friends that were the uncoordinated kids, so I wanted to stand up for them and not do this. And so in that moment, he's like cycling back to this part of his childhood when he's like 5, and then singing the song and just demolishing the pool table. It's a very interesting approach, but like when people sort of think of him as like a meme actor and stuff like that, he puts so much thought and like just objectively, he puts a lot of interest and study into the kind of character that he's going to play here. And like, what other person is going to be like, yeah, this moment from kindergarten is going to pop up and help me sledgehammer this pool table?
I don't think anybody can really like approach it in the same way. There's definitely something unique to just how he goes all in, and the links that he makes in his mind that definitely I never heard that story, never would have guessed it just from watching the scene, but it's so interesting to hear when he talks about his processes in his mind.
He's a very interesting guy in that way, but he looked at it like the Hokey Pokey was this representation of sort of like formality and sort of like sameness. So like it's like the suburbs, right? Where it's like you kind of have to like fall. Exactly. And so his like unleashing that and wanting to destroy it is like his way of like being anti-conformist and like letting that inner character out. And Brent is such like a weird character in this movie, specifically in that, like you said, he's probably closer to actually like tipping over, even if there was no inciting nationwide or worldwide incident. He might have just ended up snapping at some point anyway, because he's kind of like always on the cusp. And Cage is a great guy for that. The scene where he's talking to the boyfriend in the kitchen, he's like, I was a 17-year-old boy once, and not that long ago, keep in mind, like he's like lecturing this kid that he doesn't even know about, like how he's really not an old man. And it's like, nobody asked, but he's that much in his own head. But like in that moment in the scene where he's screaming at him, he's like, I know what you kids see on the internet. He's like, mouth to dildo, dildo to ass to ass. Hi, Brent. Anal beads. And I'm like, whoa. He's just like, he's gone to like, he's transcended the plane at that point. Like the movie has sort of just, his personality is so big and his screen presence is so big that I feel like whether or not this movie sort of, if the focal point is him, because it seems like it's not that much him in the beginning. It's more about the kids. It's more about setting up the family structure. And then by the time like you've reached the halfway point, like he's just such a charismatic presence on screen that like the movie sort of like becomes him. And I think that's a testament to just like what he brings to the table when he's going to be in your project.
He's like a black hole, he builds up, he gets bigger, that the entire universe starts to gravitate towards him. And I do think that like, that scene with the boyfriend is so interesting because he's still attacking the boyfriend, but he's attacking the boyfriend to protect his daughter, who he's also trying to kill. With gas and it's it's so interesting that the logic doesn't add up.
Well, when he's attacking the boyfriend, there's a moment where he first like tackles him to the ground, and we see it in the trailer there where he sort of like looks up towards the camera that's behind him, and he has his hand and he's like waving it like he's a conductor of an orchestra, and takes a deep breath and then comes back and smacks the kid's head into the ground. And so like even in like the small moments like that where he's kind of raging out and like he's obviously like gonna kill his daughter, or is gonna try to kill his daughter, he stops to like imbue that moment with something that sort of like goes beyond the rage that we would expect, you know? And so I feel like all those decisions are very, very like clever, calculated decisions on his part. And to be able to showcase it in a way like, because obviously the way that shot itself is framed is up, it's above him. So he has to pull back and turn towards the camera. Like it's a completely different like facial expression. And it's almost like a moment of calm and serenity in the middle of this very like turbulent tornado. And it's like his moment of calm is right before he attacks his daughter's boyfriend, which like in the back of his head, this character has kind of always really wanted to do anyway. So it's a very interesting like pause. And then it's kind of like a sprint from that point on.
It's the eye of the storm.
Yeah, very much so. I wanted to get into a couple things that are trivia related because there wasn't a lot about this film. Like I watched some interviews, but I couldn't really piece together trivia. So I just wanted to get into some like sort of behind the scenes stuff. And one of those was that John Waters said that this was among his 10 favorite films of 2018, which is cool because like Cage really loved doing this film as well. He likes working with Brian Taylor. He said, I mean, I don't know how facetious he's being in the interview, but he said that Taylor is like Kurosawa and he's Taylor's Mifune. And I'm like, does he really sort of look at their relationship like that? I think they've only done the 2 movies. So it's kind of like an interesting allegory to assign to their relationship. But what he said was that, you know, he and I have this shorthand that works really well together. And, you know, I know what he wants me to bring to the project. He sort of like gives me the freedom to do those things. So very, very cool that Cage can work with someone like once or twice and just like immediately get to that place where he's like, oh, we have this great working chemistry, this great freedom. And like, he's really going to let me play in a way that it enriches my performance and allows me to like get to those areas where a lot of other people aren't even willing to try to go.
And watching it, I totally get that because this is a project that looks like it was specifically built to allow Cage to be in full energy mode and not stand out. Like it is the entirety of the world is built to a place to make that feel natural.
No, yeah, that's a good point. Ariel, when you're acting, and I mean, how do you go about like your relationships with who's directing you? How much directing of yourself have you done?
I've done a lot of directing of myself. Yeah. In which case, the director's an asshole. The actor's the worst person ever. No, but when I work with other directors, usually I will come in with my ideas, and then I love receiving directions, so I will do it with my ideas, but then I just love other people's other people contributing their ideas of how I could change it up. So I'm very much of the attitude you need to come in with like knowing what you're going to do, but I'm someone who loves to have that flexibility to like incorporate other things because other people's ideas could be things you didn't think of, and it could be even cooler. Sometimes there's directors who just don't really give any input, so that I'm like, thank goodness I decided to go like, I mean, I've played a lot of strange characters, so you know, I lean into that, and like if the director's not giving me anything, it's like, well, I'm glad I didn't hold back because they're not doing very many takes, so I would have had a very boring performance otherwise.
When you're sorry, go ahead.
I do feel like filmmaking is this collaborative process, and the director-actor relationship is very important because you're not just telling the other person what you want from them, or you're not just allowing them to, you're working together. And so it's kind of this back and forth of, well, this is what my idea is. I like your idea. I'd like to hear your spin on it. I'd like to see what you bring to it. And I'm going to kind of observe that, watch it, and like give it back in this way and how I'd like to see that. And it's an amazing kind of like a dance. And
yeah, especially like I really think that being an actor makes me a better director for directing, at least in the directing actors aspect. And I'm also a voice actor, and I've done a bit of voice directing as well. And so like having that insight to know like the kinds of notes to give to an actor to help them bring out the aspects of the performance you're hoping to see. And then sometimes you give them the note and they do something completely different, but it's like, I never thought of it that way. And it just really can bring something new that's exciting.
Well, the two of you obviously have a good working relationship. You direct Topher, you've directed Ariel. So for something like Don't Tell Your Mom, right? How much of the sort of like the idea on the page and when you write it out, when you hand it over to Ariel, what is your collaborative process like at that point?
Well, I came to Ariel with the idea, I want this vampire to be kind of grungy. I want this vampire to not be like like the
Eloquent?
normal eloquent. This isn't a king or a duke in a castle. This is your average like person who's just been attacked and is going through something very difficult. And Ariel came back to me with you should watch this Near Dark film where they're kind of seedy, they're kind of underling, and also a little bit like sexy in a swarmy
so
bad boy way.
Yeah, also part of that was I also costume designed that film. So I got to pick my outfit for it, and I was like, I just want to dress like Bill Paxton in Near Dark. So I was like, here's what I'm thinking. So that's because also like interestingly, like even just having the right, like getting your costume on can even just like help inform the performance and like give you the right feeling.
And it's about creating those layers, right? It's about coming together and really digging into what's going to make this an interesting character.
Yeah, I think it was achieved well. I sort of pictured in my head as like, Ariel, you're playing essentially a vampire who maybe was like turned in an alley like after a concert or something like that, and so you just kind of like absorb like that personality in that moment, and that is the direction. But yeah, I was just curious because you two work together a lot, and when Cage was talking about having the shorthand with the director, like I think you're being frequent collaborators, you have to have some kind of shorthand. So
we definitely do.
Yeah.
Yeah. When the two of you like have ideas, like one way or the other, whether it's Ariel, you're writing and you're going to be directing, or Topher, you're writing, you're going to be directing. Is there like a collaborative process, but that goes from sort of like your intention on the page to then like, here, can you take a look at this? And like, how do you develop that trust between one another in terms of sort of intention?
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say, like, we do frequently do, like, punch up on each other's scripts. So, like, taking a look at them and then just, like, amping things up a lot or like.
Can I have your notes on how to make this a little bit more to hear? And we've collaborated on scripts quite a bit too, where like here I've done a pass of something that I like, but I don't like how the ending is. I really just wanted to be a bit more, give it a bit more oomph. What do you think of this? There's a lot of trust involved with that. Like there's not a lot of people that I would hand a script over and say, rewrite it as you see fit.
Yeah.
And Ariel is one of the only people who's earned that.
I've definitely made some of your scripts a lot gorier.
But it does come from like 10 years.
Yeah, well, because we've been friends for like over like at least 12 or 13 years.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's a very vulnerable thing to sort of like give your work over to somebody and say, hey, I need your honest opinion on this. Don't kiss my ass. Like, don't tell me what I need to hear. Tell me what I need to fix, kind of thing. And so developing that and being able to really like have a partner that you trust, I feel is a very valuable asset for you both.
Yeah, because a lot of people won't give you what you need to hear. They won't, and they'll just let you put out something that's not to your best abilities. And that's enabling. I don't think that does anybody any good. Sometimes you have to hurt their feelings,
Sometimes a little bit, but I think like in good friendships and in good partnerships, like there has to be some of that give and take and like an understanding that like your feelings are not always going to be protected, but this is done with mutual growth as the primary interest.
The best intention.
I mean, I will also say I've never had my feelings hurt by the notes that you've given.
Just
that's good.
The idea that you don't want to hold back something that's going to help
and
the project.
So at the same time, you want like the person who is the writer, you don't want to be like too precious about it, and you need to be receptive to the feedback instead of just being like in your head thinking the thing is perfect.
Because ultimately films are going to be watched. And so it's not just for you as the filmmaker, it is for an audience.
And have the two of you like co-written together a single script? I know when I was watching through a lot of this stuff, like I didn't.
Town Red.
Oh, okay. Where was that chronologically in order? Because I think I watched things out of order.
Yeah, that was our that was our third film. So the films go Ready to Burst, Man in the Rabbit Mask, Paint the Town Red.
So Paint the Town Red would have been the first one that I would have had a writing credit on
and a
directing credit.
Yeah.
And it was kind of my return to filmmaking, but my introduction to filmmaking as a horror
your return to writing and directing, because you'd been doing like production design and set decorations.
Yeah, I had gone through film school, and I have projects that I wouldn't show anybody from before Bad Cookie, but Paint the Town Red was well, let's see what I can bring to this and I'm very proud of it. But it was this fun opportunity of we were given a location, a nightclub, and Ariel was kind enough to say, hey, I really want you and me to collaborate and do this as a writer director, just so I can see what you're gonna bring to it.
Yeah, because I wanted it to also like sort of become an opportunity for then you to also be able to. I didn't want Bad Cookie to just be the Ariel Hansen show. I wanted to make sure that you got to bring your ideas to life as well. So I figured it was a good bridge.
And it worked. I feel quite integrated.
Well, while I have you both, since you're both filmmakers, was there a moment in Mom and Dad where you're watching it and that sort of like reverse engineering part of your brain happens, or maybe it's just me, where you're like, how did they approach like achieving this particular scene, or something that like wowed you in that like sort of like technical aspect?
Man.
I can't think of anything specifically, but that's like the sadness of making movies is now whenever I'm watching anything, I'm almost always like, oh, so they probably did this to get that shot. And oh, I wonder how, yeah. So
For me, it's like the flashback scenes and how, they just kind of like throw you in to another part of time, and they don't really give you a lot of time to think about it, but it's naturally occurring that, oh, this is outside of where we are now, and now I have to consider like what their frame of mind is in that space. So when he's talking to his kid about the car and the grandfather, I thought that was genius, because you're already in the height of action at this point. Grandpa is hunting down dad is hunting down the son, and yet they still find the way to take that moment away and put you into a um, heartfelt think piece, right?
Yeah, I mean, that particular scene where he's sort of explaining the history of having to like buy the car and sort of having a very inappropriate conversation with his son about, how much pussy he got in the car, right? But then he stops with whatever, like he's drinking a beer or something, and he like licks the can, like, and I'm like, what on earth like is going through his head in this moment with his son, that this is the decision that gets made? But it's sort of like it sort of discombobulates you, because yes, you're in like the middle of a chase scene that then gets paused to then have like this father-son moment, and it's like, oh, the music changes, the lighting changes, like the shot selection changes, and so it sort of condenses everything. But also what we're seeing condensed isn't even like a conventional sort of like sweet father-son moment either. It's kind of disgusting. He threatens his son. So even in that moment, everything is kind of like upside down and inside out, but it's a great little like mechanism at that point in the film.
As a writer, I'm incredibly jealous of that scene.
I mean, it's a hard one to pull off, but I mean, I guess when you have like Nicolas Cage at your disposal, you're gonna go for as big of a swing as you can. And since we didn't really have like full proper trivia like we normally do, we're going to give you both a couple of spins off of the bonus wheel, and we'll just get some hypothetical questions out of the way. But before we do, I wanted to point out one thing about Lance Henriksen's appearance and his performance in this. One of the interviewers asked Cage this question about Lance Henriksen and what it was like getting to work with him at this point, and how much of like a dream it was for sort of like a B movie fan to see like Lance Henriksen fighting Nicolas Cage. And Cage said that him and Lance used to take acting lessons together with Mickey Rourke. And he tells this great story about reconnecting with Lance on the set for this film and how they just kind of like slip back into like their rhythm so easily. But he tells this very sweet story about the Valley Girl premiere, which was one of Cage's like first leading roles, and he was with Henriksen at the premiere, and Cage like didn't know how he was received. Like he didn't know if he did a good job. And he kind of like looked over to Lance and sort of like communicated like, did I do good? Like, I don't know. And Henriksen was like, no, you're amazing. You're going to be great. And so he's like, it sort of like let him, it confirmed for him that like the choices that they were making and the things that they were learning together in the classes were like paying off, and that he could trust Lance's guidance. And so it was really kind of cool to hear that they've known each other like for that long to begin with, because you're talking like 50 years almost by the time, well, maybe like 35, 40 years by the time that this movie comes out from when Valley Girl's released. That's a really, really long friendship. And it was really great to see Lance. I kind of forgot he was in the movie until they opened the door, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right.
I wonder if that was just like, hey, I've got a friend. I think he'd be perfect to fill this spot here.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Okay, let's go to the bonus wheel. Ariel, we'll start with you and we'll see what we've got here. Okay. Which line of dialogue from this movie would you want to have on a t-shirt? You get to make a graphic tee.
Make a graphic tee. I feel like to make a graphic tee, okay, you take the billiard table and you have the graphic of the billiard table being smashed with the hammer going in, and then you have, you put your right foot in right below it.
I like that. I'd buy one of those. Why not?
Yeah, and you can have like a little cartoony Nick Cage at the end of the hammer.
Okay, yeah, that's a good one. Okay, let's see. Let's move on from this one. This one, I think, for this movie is not going to work. We'll spin it again. We'll get you a better one, Topher.
I can't see your wheel.
You can't see it. Nope. Some of these are like ones that I decided at the very beginning, and then the more I've done the show, the more I'm like, maybe this question's got to come off the wheel. Okay, let's see. All right, well, this one probably works for the two of you. You both had a podcast. So you can choose up to 3 characters from this film to start a podcast. Who are the characters that you're going to choose, and what is their podcast about?
Oh man. Okay. I definitely need I need Brent to come out and be and talk about his experience as a father, because I just need to explore that. And I'd probably bring his father on as well, because I think we need to. I want to hear more about this car. and if we're going to go that way, I might as well take the whole line of males in this family and just really get to what it means to be a father, a son, a grandfather, and I'll do it right in the middle of the where this film ends, just so I can really explore what this means.
That's a good choice. All the men of the family getting together to talk about what it means to sort of co-parent. That's a good one. I like that. Brent has got to be at the center of it, though. I think there's no way around that.
Absolutely.
Okay. Ariel, what movie snack would you pair with this movie?
Okay, so I think you gotta go like you gotta go for snacks that your mom might make for you. Like, it's the afternoon, it's between lunch and dinner, and it's a rainy day, so you can't go outside, so your mom's like making you snacks. So I think ants on a log.
Oh,
so you take some celery, some peanut butter, and either some raisins or craisins, depending on your taste preferences. And I think like just really go into childhood for this.
It's a good one. I like that. That's way outside the box. I like that though. Okay. Last one off the wheel. Topher, you're going to pick one character from this movie, and you're going to tell me what they're going to be posting on social media the morning after the events of the film.
Oh. All right. I think I'm going to take the daughter.
Fair. She seems probably like the most social media savvy of the group.
Yeah, and she's going to post a lovely little dedication. Rest in peace, my mom. But I'm alive, I'm a survivor, and I'm ready to venture forth into the world. A new woman.
I think you got to teen it up a bit. That sounded very not like what a teen would write on social media. That's very much 30-something-year-old man writing teen girl.
Honestly, I was thinking of Bo Burnham. White woman's Instagram.
Oh wow. Was there anything else that you like had in your notes or you specifically really wanted to talk about in regards to this movie before we get to the next thing?
Well, is the next thing like more or less? Is that what we're moving
where we're
into?
headed. That is where we're headed.
I'm ready for that, but I'll let Ariel.
I think we can keep on rolling. What?
All right. Well, then I'll go to you first, Ariel. Give me one thing that you want more of in the film and one thing that you want less of.
Okay. Let's see. I think I would like more, just if I could just have a little bit more to the end. Just a little bit more. Just a hint at what might happen after, you know?
That's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, I was wondering what happened to the gun. I know they shot like 3 shots and they just kind of like left it somewhere.
Yeah.
Doesn't feel like a full round.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you want less of?
Less of. This is kind of both a more and less at the same time. Maybe a few more scenes with slightly less frenetic editing. Just so I can pay attention a bit more easily.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. There's a lot of that.
Yeah. Yeah, less like.
Definitely from the guy that made Crank.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. A little bit more traditional on the editing side.
Yeah,
Topher,
for me,
how do you
I
feel?
want to see more of the consequences. I want to explore this world and see what's happening to these parents after they kill their kids, because it seems like they just go back into normal world, but there's got to be, are they getting arrested? Are they feeling bad? Are they having to defend their actions to their friends?
So you want a sequel?
Yeah. I want to see more characters. I want to see how this, where this is impacting, the traditional aspects of life, because
so and if it never goes away, does because the grandparents aren't trying to kill the grandkids.
No.
So does it become a society where as women are giving birth, the children are just taken away and given to the grandparents to raise, so then you never meet your own kids, but you then when you're older raise a kid?
Or there's that scene in the hospital where the parents are staring down their newborn infant babies.
Yeah.
As a hospital worker, you know what's going on. Do you just swap babies and now it's a society that adoption is enforced? I want to see what this means.
You want to see the sci-fi dystopia it leads to.
Yeah. I'm curious. Do you spend your whole life, fearing your parents are going to come one day, knocking down your door and just murdering you out of instinct?
Or in this adoption society, do you just have random murders happening where someone came across in the streets their parents, then neither of them knew it, but they just had this urge?
Does the
Yeah.
human race have to evolve
Okay.
to raise themselves as children, like deer or or
I think the grandparents loophole could work
yeah.
potentially.
Yeah, circumvent all of that and just straight dystopia. Okay, well, what do you want less of that in the film?
See, this is the thing, because I've always just wanted like more. It's such a high energy movie that it kind of just ups my dopamine. So I think like less restriction.
Okay, fair enough.
I wanna see, you know,
See more child murder?
I just want to see if there was no, I have to put this in a theater, or I have to I'm beholden to the audience or the money that has to be made. What would we, and I do feel like this is a movie where they did not hold back. It does not feel like they had any decisions where they were like, oh, I guess we can go little bit less on this, but I'd like to see what it would look like if there was none of that.
All right, less restrictions indeed. The sequel is going to be pretty gory, my friend. All right, well, let's head over to Critics Corner now. We'll take a look. This is going to be a very special treat for us in the sense that Critics Corner is usually not a friendly place to go, but the critics actually like this movie. So we're going to actually have more green on the board than any other color, but we have a 59 overall Metascore. We're going to start at the bottom, as we always do. Sometimes the bottom is as low as 0 on this show, but we're starting at 50, so we're already at the halfway point. This is Pat Padua from the Washington Post says, despite a glorious performance by Nicolas Cage as a vicious father, this vivid satire of a world turned upside down is marred by writer-director Brian Taylor's sloppy filmmaking.
Rude.
Whoa, very rude. Yeah. I mean, I understand. I would say it's frenetic, right? Like the scenes at the school, the scenes with the large crowds, the scenes where they're like sort of running through traffic. All of that seems to be sort of like handheld shaky cam style, and then when you're sort of editing chunks of that together, even those sequences don't necessarily line up, so it's all very sort of like hectic.
But knowing his other films, this is intentional.
Yes.
It's
For sure.
It's not sloppy.
No, I don't think it's sloppy.
Stretch of the imagination.
Washington Post just not a fan, but it's fine. We'll leave that behind and we'll climb the board. There's 2 60s on the board from The Guardian and from Screen Daily. So, Ariel, I'll let you choose which one of those you want to go with.
Let's go Screen Daily.
Screen Daily. Tim Grierson says this film lets Nicolas Cage's gonzo performance be its guide, mixing mocking self-parody and giddy enthusiasm for an utterly disposable, demented genre diversion. I mean, that sounds like a pretty complimentary.
Aside from utterly disposable.
Yes, except for that part. But
yeah,
seems like he had a good time. But yeah, I feel like you can look at the movie sort of like 2 ways. Like this person looked at it like it's just a sort of horror film featuring Nick Cage, which it is. But I think as more of a character driven approach to what the story itself is doing, it isn't like a throwaway horror movie in my mind. There's a lot of those that get made, and like rightfully so, but I feel like this movie is trying to do more than that, and like it's doing it with intent.
Yeah, give it some credit.
All right, well, let's climb the board a little bit more. Let's see. We'll skip over the 63 and we'll go to a 70. This is the Hollywood Reporter. Leslie Felperin says 0 to 60 speed crazy is pretty much right in Cage's wheelhouse, and he offers up a perfectly amusing comical workout of the madman shtick he could pretty much do in his sleep at this point. More impressive is Blair, a chronically underused talent who gets to demonstrate, excuse me, her already established flair for comedy and more, besides in a role to which she brings a surprising level of nuance.
It is true. Blair doesn't get a lot of credit because we're moving so fast, but she in this film, before she sees her kids, we actually get to see her grappling with something is going on. I'm beginning to understand what's going on. How am I going to stop myself um, from something that is completely out of my control? And it's beautiful to see that.
Yeah, I mean, given that this is obviously like a vehicle for Nick Cage and the whole theme of the month for the episodes that I'm doing is Nick Cage, she's great in this movie. And I think that's one of the things that Taylor echoed a lot during the press tour, at least what I saw in interviews, was that he was as adamant about her being the only person for this role in the same way that Nick Cage was, but just the toned down end of the spectrum. So glad to see that, you know, at least the Hollywood Reporter can recognize that as well.
Even looking behind you in the poster, she shares the screen exactly with Nick Cage. She's not a secondary.
It's not just dad.
Yeah,
it's mom and dad.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of this poster, the Nick Cage here, where is it? This one, his face for some reason doesn't look like him right here. Like I could tell because of his eyes, but for some reason when I saw this poster initially, I was like, is that him? It says that it is, but it doesn't. Like his face looks kind of like puffy or something. But then I didn't see him wearing like prosthetics, I don't think, in the film. So I don't know if it's just because it's cut at a particular angle, but for the longest time, I would look at the poster and just be like, that's not his face.
Could also be the lighting.
It could be, yeah. He just looks like a little swollen. He reminds me of somebody else that I can't quite put my finger on, and so it's always just like driven me crazy. But we'll move on. We've got 275s on the board. This is IndieWire and Slant magazine. So Topher, you can pick your poison with the 75s.
Let's go Slant. Let's.
Chuck Bowen from Slant says writer-director Brian Taylor's Mom and Dad invests an Ori conceit with disturbing and hilarious lunacy. Okay, that's honest, short, simple.
I like the use of the word lunacy.
Yeah, it's crazy. It is a crazy idea, but it really leans into that. So we still got two more really good ones on the board. So the first one is from Screen Crush, and this is Matt Singer. It says Mom and Dad gives Cage his most plausible in-story excuse to unleash his total cageosity since Face Off. Given a juicy part and the freedom to do whatever he wants, he embraces Brent's madness with obvious glee.
It's you.
Pardon? I got distracted. What? You started pointing at your shirt.
You mentioned Face Off, and this is Caster.
Yeah.
Face Off right
Front
here.
and center. So Matt Singer is saying that this is the most plausible story for Cage to like embrace his cage rage. And so given the fact that he's got the juicy part and the freedom to do whatever he wants, he really has a lot of fun with the role. And so, I mean, I think we can all see that. That moment in the trailer that we saw earlier where he's playing with his son, he throws him on the couch. You know, he's like tickle fighting him, and then the son hits him in the head with the ball, and he like turns around, snaps, and for like the intensity for that split second is like very much there, and then he kind of like turns it off and he's joking, and then he says something to him like, "You're lucky if you'll make it till 10. Like, you're such a pain in my ass, I will kill you before you're 10 years old," kind of thing. And so Cage really embodies, I think, the entire spirit of the film. It would have been interesting to see a younger Nick Cage be the lead in the Crank films, Because I think it was just like he sort of just like missed the window of opportunity by like 10 or 15 years. And Statham has a very good sense of humor, and I think is sort of very self-aware of like his place in the industry. He's the right choice for that kind of stuff, and can have fun with it. But it would have been fun to see. I mean, hey, look, it's not out of the realm of possibility that there could be another Crank with Statham and Nick Cage. I mean, I would definitely be paying to watch that. So
Cage would make a great villain.
He would.
In Crank 3.
He would.
I mean,
he should do more villain roles, honestly. Okay, let's see. We've got, of all of the industry magazines, Variety is at the top of the board with a 90 out of 100. This is Dennis Harvey says, though sure to be distasteful for some viewers even to ponder, this giddy exercise transcends mere bad taste humor to become one of the great jet black comedies about suburbia. There you go. I agree with Dennis.
That's an incredible just piece of wordsmithing, because you're absolutely, it is not for some people just the concept is enough for them to
write it off,
and that's not fair.
Yeah.
Give yourself a little bit of credit. You're an adult. You can watch a movie with a bit of gore and maybe you'll learn something from it. I think it's better to really jump in feet first and really explore how you feel and what you're going to feel and how that's going to grow you as a person. And don't kill your kids, obviously.
Don't do that. But watch the movie, enjoy, realize it's a movie, it's okay, and just move on. But I mean, to close out with a 90 is great. To have that many positive reviews for a movie that I talk about on this show is fantastic as well. And since we're going to be talking about movies, we're going to talk about gateway drug movies. So I want to hear from both of you. What is a good jumping off point for people who have maybe never seen Mom and Dad and maybe they don't trust us? What is a good movie that's kind of like close that could nudge them in the direction of Mom and Dad?
Okay, I've got one. So I think that a good movie that would like kind of bridge between not being ready for this and being ready for this is Mayhem, the one with Samara Weaving.
Yeah, and Steven Yeun, right?
Yeah, it's so similar in concept because it's like a virus that's causing people to basically go ape shit, but in that same way that they still can think and stuff, but they don't have the inhibitions. But because the setting is in a workplace, it doesn't have that element of they're killing their kids. Yeah. So like if you enjoy that, then give Mom and Dad a try.
It's a good one. Yeah, Mayhem was one of the suggestions when I finished watching Mom and Dad. It was like, you might also like this. It's like, how did you know? I do like that movie.
So I wrote down, I put this in the sequence, actually, where you start off and you watch Ghost Rider, of course.
All right, I'm on board already.
Their first...
Spirit of Vengeance.
Yes.
Yeah. Ghost Rider, Spirit of Vengeance, just to understand where you're going to come in. I then put Face Off as a way to like, but Nicolas Cage could be up here. And then once you're done Face Off, watch Mom and Dad so that you're right into the middle of the Cage Fury. And after Mom and Dad, and this was really exciting for me, I think you need to move on to Mandy and just see where Cage can be if you absolutely give him the world in which he can do anything, be anything, and just enjoy to see where he can go. And I do feel like Mandy is the top of that experience.
Well, that's a good point. I think I ultimately boiled it down to like probably 28 Days Later and Pontypool. Not that many people have probably seen Pontypool, but 28 Days Later gives you the sort of like rage disease. Pontypool sort of dials it down into this unexplainable thing that just makes you want to like kill other people, and sort of narrows it into like a much smaller setting where 28 Days Later is a lot like sort of bigger on scale. So I think either of those two are probably decent launch pads. And then if I'm going to pick a Cage movie, maybe Color Out of Space, because that is sort of like a slowly dissenting into madness kind of performance from him as well. And you get to see some of that. He is a dad in that as well. So if you want to lean into the dad vibes for Cage, that's another solid one where he's like trying to kill his family too. So, you know, there are some similarities. Well, I want to thank you both for taking the time to come on the show and talk to me. But, you know, for people that didn't maybe listen to my interview with Topher, I want to know, like, where can people find you? I know you just had Don't Tell Your Mom dropped like 2 weeks ago at this point. Is that the most recent one? You got something else in the chamber lined up?
By all means.
Don't Tell Your Mom, that's the most recent one to go up on our YouTube channel. We also have a film that just needs a couple tweaks, and then we'll probably put it out in the new year. And then we're also currently shooting a series that'll get released next autumn. And that is actually kind of my baby. It's called Sustainably Spooky, and it combines interviews with local sustainable initiatives with spooky crafting.
What is spooky crafting? Is that like making dream catchers or something?
It's just making crafts that have a spooky flair. So the first thing that we're gonna make is coffin-shaped pet beds.
Oh. Okay.
Here lies your pet.
I do also want to say Ariel has a huge backlog of really great films. The most recent would be Damned Supper, which is again available on our YouTube channel, along with everything else that we've done. We do a lot of short films and non-narrative projects. So we have short film reviews, we have interviews.
We've also got like some little holiday specials, like the 420 holiday special that you made.
Topher Stoner Corner.
Yes.
We have virtual reality films if you
have a 360 capable device.
Your phone.
Yeah.
But
it helps to have the blinders though.
But YouTube is our best place to find us. We do have a website. We have Instagram, Facebook. But if you really want to see our work, everything currently available is on YouTube.
Yeah.
And of course, if anyone's interested, I'm sure they could go to badcookiepictures.com as well and learn about the two of you and the production company and some of your work. And correct me if I'm wrong, Damned Supper is the seance that's like a period piece, but then it's not actually a period piece. Yes, that has one of probably my favorite jokes that I saw in any of the shorts about this lady wearing out her vibrator every like 20 days or something. And is the reaction of the friend that's like 20 days. And she's like, chill, like I got needs. Okay. I'm
so glad that landed.
I think just in like that overall setting where it's like, you know, I'm married, but I hear like horror stories of people sort of dating online. And so this idea that we're going to sort of bring people back from the dead in order to find partners and then to then bury a joke like that inside this kind of story, I felt was like, it caught me off guard. And that's why, so I wanted to just like point it out and give you credit for that.
So actually, so the dumb supper ritual is like an old thing that people would do on Halloween. And the idea is it's like a divination ritual. So if you it's supposed to like have the apparition of your future love show up. But if you get a coffin, it means you're going to die without getting married.
Interesting. So based on something real. I like that.
Yeah.
Definitely a little bit macabre there.
Yes.
Well,
if you like
definitely
macabre, you'll love Bad Cookie Pictures.
Yes. Very much so. Well, thank you both for doing this. I wish you both the best of luck. And
you.
please have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, have a great rest of NicVember.
Oh, I absolutely will. So much. We're going to have a second NicVember month sometime in the spring, I think, next year. I don't know what I'm going to call it yet, but we'll do round 2.
Nickay.
Yeah.
Nickrel.
Like that.
Nickrel. Mage. No.
Yeah.
Exactly. I was like, it's going to be a lot less cleverly named month than this one, but I don't want to wait all the way until November to do it again. So sometime in the spring when I have a little bit of a window to cram some things in there.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks for having us.
My pleasure.
Thanks to Topher and Ariel for coming on the show. I had a great time talking to Topher when we did the Filmmaker in Focus episode not that long ago, and I'm so glad that he reached out to Ariel and she agreed to come on and talk as well, because it's such a great perspective to have people who are actually active and making films come in here and participate in these episodes and have a healthy appetite for celebrating quote-unquote bad movies. If you had fun with our conversation today, make sure that you check out badcookiepictures.com and check out the new short, Don't Tell Your Mom, which is live on the Bad Cookie Pictures YouTube account right now. The links for all of that is up in the show notes for you. Part 1 of NicVember might be over, but November's not, and I've got a Thanksgiving episode on the way for you. And, of course, thank you to everyone out there who took the time to listen to this episode, or to any episode, honestly. I know there's a seemingly infinite number of options when it comes to podcasts, and I sincerely appreciate you letting me into your ears and hopefully into your hearts. In all seriousness, though, time is valuable, and I'm very grateful that you've entrusted me with yours. If you enjoy the show, please leave a review or at least a rating and tell a friend about it. If you don't, then maybe let's keep that between us. But the new members-only section is live at badmoviesweloved.captivate.fm/support. That link is also in the show notes. And I'd love to hear from you. So if you have a bad movie you love and would like to be a guest on the show, you can contact me at badmovieswelove@theshice.com or at badmoviesweloveluv on Twitter and Instagram. And until next time, take care, be well, and have fun however you get your movies. I know you're out there somewhere, Rids. I love you.